Thank you all so much for coming to my book release. I am Janice Franklin. My author name is J.D. Franklin. And I am here to release the Spy Inside Child Support Cheat Codes. I wrote this book at the beginning, started writing this at the beginning of lockdown when COVID hit. And at that time, I was still actively working as a journey enforcement specialist within the child support, in a child support agency here in California. And I had been doing all the right steps. I had been trying to promote. I've been, a high-performing specialist. I was known for being very compassionate. I had clients that would move away out of my caseload and beg to come back because they didn't like the other coworkers. And I was consistently bringing in $30,000 to $50,000 in collections. So I was a very high performer. But one thing I realized is that the system is duplicit in that it causes conflict, which it then profits off of. And it doesn't really give solutions to help families better manage, so that way there's not so much conflict that is affecting not only their lives, but also those of the children that they brought into this world and should be raising together. So I decided to take all of the things that I wish I could say that I couldn't because of my role and put it pen to paper. And that was how the Child Support Cheat Codes was born. So here is the cover. And this is just the first step in what I hope will be a solution that people can utilize to make more mutual beneficial agreements between them, so that not only does it help their mental health, but that of the entire family. So right now I'm just going to read you a quick passage from one of the chapters, and then I would like to have a discussion with you guys, just for a few minutes. So this chapter is called It's All About the Delivery. It starts out from the perspective of the parent paying support. He makes the call reluctantly, knowing that he has no choice but to call to beg for assistance. The child support that he had ignored for 15 years has finally caught up to him. He got used to not having a driver's license and working under the table. But he sees that his buddies have their own while he's still living on couches and working for scraps. "Thank you for calling," the woman greets upon answering. She sounds nice enough for a caseworker. With a deep breath, he tells his story for the umpteenth time over the last 25 years. Then something different happens. She asks me about their mother. I know how to reach her, though I don't really care to deal with her. But if I can get her to close this case, it may not be too late for me to live a full life. I jot down the steps and get to work. 3 weeks later, that same woman calls back to say that their mother called and was willing to negotiate. Negotiate? I don't want to negotiate. I want her to close it. The caseworker says that this is the best option right now and could lead to further changes. If the mother thinks she can hang with my brother and the rest of my family and still squeeze me for money I don't have, she is wrong. And after I hang up with the coworker, I contact their mother and set her straight. Parent receiving support perspective. "Thank you for calling," she greets. "I'm not sure who or why she is calling me, but I was too curious not to call back. She is the nicest caseworker I have spoken to in all these years. She says that my children's father is wanting to negotiate about what he owes me. I'm shocked since we haven't spoken in like 11 years. Although my best friend is his brother, we make sure not to talk about their father. I try not to stir the pot. I have struggled. I try not to stir the pot. I have struggled and raised our children alone without his help, and now he wants me to close the case. I can't do it. The caseworker explained that I don't have to do that, but I can create my own agreement. After learning about the process, I think that I can agree to waive $10,000 and with payments of $150 per month and stop interest for now. If he pays consistently for 12 months, then I'll think about waiving more of the balance if we can get along. I know that he is not going to like that I'm not closing the whole thing, but it should be a start. You think you deserve anything from me, he yells. This is what I thought would happen, but I hope that time had made him have a cooler head. While time may not have changed him, it sure changed me, and I won't be bullied or disrespected. Hello? I answer as I connect the call. She saved me from having to make it. I tell her what happened after our last call and that I no longer agreed to work with their father after what he said. I can't even be friends with his brother now, and it's sad. I must be strong. The caseworker seems just as sad as me. Such is life. So now this is the local child support agency's perspective. The parent paying support owes $25,945.64 to the parent receiving support at a minimum of $50 per month to keep his driver's license from suspending for noncompliance. The principal is $17,315.90 with interest of $8,629.74. This agreement would have paid off the total interest and a part of the principal. Because the parent paying support's attitude and unwillingness to think long term, the parent receiving support chose not to continue negotiations. The parent paying support will still owe the full balance, which will continue to increase because the monthly payment amount does not even cover the monthly interest accrual. The only option the parent paying support must resolve this is to increase the amount of his monthly payments to pay the balance as quickly as possible, or hope he can negotiate with the parent receiving support in the future. Life is full of conflicts, trials, and uncomfortable situations. Many times we are on the receiving end of unpleasantness. Some people never learn how to handle such challenges and become devastated by whatever information they have received. If being honest, Black people are especially emotional because of the PSD our culture has suffered from the institutional and systematic war against us. Add past experiences in relationships, good and bad, to this, and you can imagine that it can be a lot for anyone to handle, especially us. When all of this is piled on top of being separated from your children or feeling that you are alone caring for those children, everyone involved will have baggage, and it will show in their communications. It can be the attitude of the person delivering a message that can help or ruin how the person receiving the message understands it. Their tone of voice or body language during this delivery, whether consciously or unconsciously, can convey negativity and judgment that turns an already awkward situation even more sour, or result in an even more desired outcome if approached with a positive, collaborative position. If you have been a receiver just as I described, then you should be able to understand and accept that care has to be taken when you have to give someone a message that they are not going to like. Consider common courtesy. My background spans several industries where the need for delicate communication was important. You must approach the conversation logically and with genuine empathy. When I say logically, I mean determine the problem and have a solution, more than one, if possible, ready. So that is just one of the cheat codes that is in the client side. And what I would like to do is open it up for us to have a conversation. So when most parents walk into child support, there's confusion, there's fear, there's no real information, which is why I wrote this book. So I would like if maybe one or two of you would share what your experience or knowledge is about child support that maybe we could talk about. Anybody got an experience?
Well, I do. So my child support scenario was really different because, so my dad lived with us, We paid child support. And my mom was on Section 8. So he would pay the landlord just a little bit more to be able to say that he didn't live with us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, I never really understood the logic when I think about it right now. You know, and for me, I just always looked at the child support like, oh, that's my mom's gambling money. You know, and I remember it was $324. It was all good until my dad actually left the home. And then all we had was $324. And my mom still had her gambling addiction. So she would literally gamble away her only income, which was the child support. And I remember being on Section 8 and our rent was $60. You know, and looking at these nostalgia books, you know, even with that $324, you know, we couldn't even pay our rent, you know, and it was only $60, and we lived in a 3-bedroom, a beautiful home in Berkeley. And it was like, then I got offended by the child support system, and I felt like, you know, it was an easy way out for my dad, because, you know, once he left, he didn't buy school. It went from getting a little bit of school clothes to not having money for school clothes to, oh, I don't have money for you guys on the weekends, you know, to come over. And my mom didn't care. She would leave us on his porch. And I remember one day, you know, being left on his porch, and he lived in a gated apartment building, and he said he didn't have food for us, you know, because in his mind, he's like, oh, I'm paying child support. And I went inside, and he was there with a larger woman. And even as a kid, all I thought about was, she ain't missed no meals. So for you to say that you don't have money for us to come over this weekend, you over here, and I know she didn't ate, you know? But like, it was like the child support became the divide, because it was almost like he started living a good life once he left. Like, I don't have to pay the rent. All I gotta do is send this $324. Boom, there you have it. And I'm totally, you know, against the child support agreement, because it does not, all the expenses that mothers have to take into, or mothers or single fathers have to take into consideration, they're not really thinking about the bigger picture. And one parent, whoever is the one who decides to keep the children, typically falls on the shorter end of the stick. So I just love, you know, what you're doing to be able to allow parents to have a child support agreement that really makes sense for the children. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Hey, no problem. Based on, you know, your experience, it sounds like, you know, like Dad was definitely had things in a way where, you know, you were surviving off the system, but that's the problem, that when you're working under the table, you know, that type of thing, these situations can easily fall apart, and there's wrong, like, you know, there's missteps on both sides of that. One thing that I did hear, you know, when you were talking about, you know, when he left, that's when all you had was the $324, you know, the child support. And I think one of the biggest problems with the system is that they make it so that not only is it unbalanced, but also the ramifications are imbalanced too. So, like, child support also, it was started back in 1975 based, and it's part of the Social Security Act. But what a lot of people don't realize is that child support was created so that people in power who had the financial means could basically write a check and write off their their parental obligation. They could have children, have a wife, and then if they step out and decide they don't want to be with her anymore, they could just write a check every month, and it's on her to figure it out, and they're free to move along. But also, this is something that it helps a certain group of people, and I think we know who those group of people are. Usually, you know, white men that are the ones that created this system, and they're the ones that benefit from it. But over the years, over time, a lot of us figure out how to benefit. We all find our ways to benefit in every system. So I think a majority of women have figured out how to utilize the child support system to not only benefit for themselves and, you know, in some cases get what they rightfully should so they can take care of their child and their children. But then on the other side of that, it's also been turned into a way to punish because you're not with me anymore. You broke my heart. You